And we're live. Hello and welcome, everyone. It's time for another amazing, exciting, thought provocative episode of IT Career in Australia. And today we're chatting about how to transition from tech to MarTech. And if you even ever wondered how to move from tech role into world of MarTech, so this session is for you. Satya will share his own journey, what helped him to make the change, what key skills to focus on. We'll also explore how AI is changing the MarTech and landscape and how you can turn your technical experience into real marketing impact. And also talk about some cool opportunities emerging in tech, MarTech industry as well. So make sure to bring your questions. We'll take the questions from both LinkedIn and YouTube. And don't forget to say hi in the comments, because if you're not saying hi, we don't know that you're here. And it's kind of sad that you're not commenting. So please make sure to ask some questions. And as usual, if you're watching us YouTube, make sure to connect with me on LinkedIn. If you're watching us on LinkedIn, make sure to check out the YouTube channel with more topics. If you in Melbourne or in Australia in general, make sure to join the meetup group as well, because there's quite a few face-to-face events that we're running across Australia too. And I'll talk about it a little bit more in the details at the end of the stream. So anyway, that's enough of me. I'll pass it on to Satya to introduce himself, please.
Thank you, Yana, and it is a pleasure. Good evening to our viewers in Australia, and hello to our viewers globally. Pleasure to be here and part of this conversation. I've been in the marketing tech / technology space for the last 15 to 18 years, have done different roles. My last role was with NZ Bank in Australia, where I was managing a large engineering team looking after marketing capability and technology. Prior to that, I had worked with Cochlear as an enterprise architect. And prior to that, I was with Citibank in the campaign orchestration execution, again, using technology and marketing and business change. Lovely to be part of this group and having a conversation. And let's have a chat about what tech and MarTech is all about.
Perfect, Satya, and great to have you. You have definitely vast experience in the MarTech, so we'll ask you a lot of questions. And thank you, everyone, saying hi. James here. Media Bangkok here, so all these YouTube names. Anyway, hi from Bangkok. Alan's here. Great to see you, Alan. Thank you for saying hi in the comments. And yes, let's dive straight into it. So I guess, Satya, we would like you to tell us a little bit more about your journey in general, and also, I guess, what sparked your transition from tech role into MarTech space. Maybe it was like some aha moment, or some light bulb. I don't know. Or maybe you wanted to be in MarTech from kindergarten, and you just didn't realize it till later.
No, it wasn't like that. No, it wasn't a linear thing. I think I really did not transition, should I say, into MarTech. And honestly, should I say, I did not chase MarTech. It just found me. I kept ending up in situations where technology was delivering perfectly, yet the business was not really getting the results. So the logic of how we use data, how we personalize, how we sequence a customer journey, that exactly brought me into MarTech. And then I realized that I've been doing this for years, talking about customer platforms, talking about decisioning, omni-channel delivery, capability uplift. And reality was that when I was doing all of this, there was no such term as MarTech. Right, it was campaign management, campaign execution, campaign orchestration, marketing automation, but MarTech was not the world. But then the real turning point, I would say, happened when I saw that technology alone wasn't really moving the commercial needle. So you can deploy a perfect architecture, or and that can still fail commercially if the customer journey is broken, or the data is in silos, or the business lacks decisioning. And that's how I really moved into MarTech, because I wanted to connect technology to a commercial outcome. And that was the missing piece in that building. So rather than just building systems, you start building revenue engines. And once I realized that that's the connection between technology and marketing, that's commercial engine and being the revenue generating engine, I realized that MarTech was a natural home for me, and this is exactly what I've been doing. So, how do I connect people, data, process, and technology together? Was MarTech.
Okay, go. And I guess what's actually the the biggest difference between working in tech and working in MarTech? Did you
So
feel like some sort of difference as MarTech found you?
I think there's a couple of things that resonate very well with me in terms of talking through the difference. I guess the biggest difference I see between tech and martech is that the proximity to the business or the commercial impact or the closeness to the customer is more in martech as compared to in tech. When you talk about tech, in tech you focus predominantly more on performance, uptime, architecture, and delivery velocity. Whereas in martech, you're really focusing on behaviors, segmentation, decisioning, and commercial impact. Another way to look at it is that when you're working in tech, you're looking at, is the system working? Are the integrations stable? Whereas when you're working in martech, you're looking at, is the customer moving? Are the journeys converting? Or is there influencing? Are we able to influence behavior? And the decisioning engine that we've got, is that improving lifetime value? So it's, again, as I keep saying, it's the proximity to the revenue or the customer as compared to just technology. The other way to look at it is when you're looking comparing tech and martech is that in tech you would normally optimize the system, whereas in martech you actually optimize the customer. So the shift happens from an engineering logic to a customer logic and that makes it exciting. So let me try to give you an example, and I'll give you the transition as to how this has happened in workforce. So there's two. There's actually, I'll talk about this in a second, but bear with me. I think I'm just shifting my slide so I can see what you're talking about. So let's take an example. When I talk about the tech logic and the martech logic, technically you could deliver a system which is messy, um, but no one really cares about it. But if you deliver a system that actually increases a 25% conversion rate, a lot of people are going to talk about it. So how can we, if we're still delivering a messy technical solution but actually giving a revenue outcome, people will remember the revenue outcome, not about the messy solution. And this is a good example where sometimes we talk about straight through processing and non-through straight through processing. So straight through processing is when you click a button, magic happens, and everything happens in sequence, and you get an outcome. Whereas a non-straight through process is when you click a button, there's a lot of workflows or manual process that hit behind the system, and technology teams work to make it happen. The customer does not see it. So it's just where the customer sees it, it's a better experience. Where the customer does not see it, they don't really think about how messy or clunky the system is.
I feel like all tech people need to be MarTech people.
Beg your pardon?
I feel like all tech people need to be MarTech people in a way, because we do want to care about, I guess, the customer, not about the system at the end of the day.
I think that's a good question, and we'll take that a bit later. That can all tech people be mark tech people, or can all mark tech people be tech people?
Yes, but I guess we're talking about the difference now. Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
So this is. Can you see a slide I've actually got in here?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
okay. So I'll walk you through what that actually means, and this is a good. It's a way of defining how marketing campaigns were built. In the 90s, there was always a demand for people with SQL skills, right? Data analysts were really SQL skills. So the trade-off was that marketing people would create a brief, and a brief is a set of instruction that basically tells you what to do. So it's like, okay, I want to target people in New South Wales between the age group of, let's say, 30 and 50, and let's say all females. So you write an SQL, select from this table where condition having blah blah blah, and you get a list of people, and that gets sent out an email or an SMS or a piece of letter. Now, what that required a lot of technical skills, SQL skills to do that piece of work. Now, what's happening is that as we evolve in the true MarTech space, is that that coding is not required. You can, AI is doing a lot of that zero code, no code. So you can just have a no code GUI interface, and you just basically provide your prompts, and an SQL is created in the back end, and that produces a lift. So that's one of the shifts you will see, how technology and MarTech work hand in hand. So MarTech, where earlier it was a very pure technical SQL function from a just as a list extract function, is now more going into a loosely held low code, no code function.
So I guess, does it mean that you don't need to be technical anymore to do MarTech if the AI can do all of it?
No, no. Again, you
No.
still need to have a level of technical competencies to manage MarTech, because when it comes to consolidation, when it comes to integration, when it comes to assimilation of data pipelines, legacy systems with uh, modern system, that's when that skills is very critical.
And again, on another side, do you feel like some of the uh, tech skills not translate well into MarTech? How do you kind of bridge this gap if you've been in tech for a long time and want to more move to MarTech?
Yeah, it's actually a mind shift change. So if you look at how tech people operate, and then you look at how martech people needs to operate, and how do you bridge that gap, is that uh, technical people sometimes have a binary mindset, which is like a yes or a no, or a zero or a one. It's like whether it's right or wrong, working, not working, complete, incomplete. That's the terminology that technology people really start working with. Waterfall, agile, and that's the approach, right? When you have an engineering mindset, you work and you strive for 100% clarity. You have to have the full definition requirements, detailed specification, and that's why that I talked about that waterfall or agile is how you take your requirements and how you go into build and DevOps and other things. Where when you're working in marketing, marketing doesn't really operate in binaries; it operates in probabilities. So, which means that sometimes you'll not have the perfect data, you will not have the perfect attribution, you won't have the perfect journey. So you're optimizing in a messy human environment, and you got to basically, there's ambiguity, there's make decision with incomplete data. You're going to speak within hypothesis language, not guarantees, and you focus on customer outcomes, just not technical output. So that's the key difference between operating into tech and martech in that landscape. So what tech gives you is the ability to build it. The tech gives you the ability to do the foundations, where martech actually gives you the ability as to how do you compound from that build, being able to influence. So that's one of the key differences in terms of, rather than just building and collating systems and data pipelines, how do you use the systems and data pipelines to solve a business problem, which in turn you're actually influencing an outcome or a decision.
Yeah. And I guess, Satya, if we'll just go like step back, I think you had the slide there in terms of like emerging roles in MarTech. Now we sort of skip it. Yeah. So I guess uh, what's happening in the market at the moment? So is it more demand for MarTech people so that we see, or it's hard to say?
No, no, it's actually, there's a lot of demand for MarTech people, and MarTech people come in different shapes and sizes. So there's a new term that's coming up, which is called the marketing technologists, and these are people in high demand, a very niche skill set. And what a marketing technologist does is it basically connects the business with the technology team. So when I say the business with the technology team, is basically a MarTech professional could be working in business but has a good influence in technology, or a marketing technologist could be working in the strategy and architecture team or in the IT team and having a good relationship with the business team and working vice versa. So how do you take your requirements, it's like portfolio management, that type of work a marketing technologist does. So plumbing your data ecosystem, understanding how your different systems that you've got, how they operate. So that's the job of the marketing technologist. And the marketing operations person is someone who basically goes away once the technology has been embedded within the organization. How do you take it to that next level in terms of enablement, doing things better, simpler, faster? How do you get consistency and standardization? So marketing operations is not a very technical function, but it's someone who has BA skills and wants to transition into operations. That's a good fit, because what that looks is that you have a great understanding of the business needs, the business requirements, how the different components of the business from a people, process, data, and tech connect with each other, and then you can actually use that to operationalize it and enable that. Where a marketing technologist is someone who has a good understanding of the technology function and the integration capabilities, the enterprise architecture, digital portfolio maps, and then can translate that into tangible, or should I say, value streams.
Yeah. And I guess what would be first step for someone who wanna move more into that, marketing technologist? Should the people start with maybe with even like some tools? Where is like there's so many MarTech tools in the market. Obviously, with AI, it's even more. How do you decide sort of which platforms, frameworks to use? Um, the skills we're investing at the moment. So, do you have some sort of suggestions on those?
This is a good question and a very long question, so I'll take my time to answer it for the benefit of the audience in terms of how they're thinking about it. In the MarTech landscape, there are about 15,000 plus tools to consider. So, and I just make it fun that if you want to basically spend 1 minute understanding what that tool is, you'll be working 9 to 5 for the next 33 days, just trying to understand what the tool does, right? So the idea is that you don't actually chase tools, you actually chase capabilities. And the graph that you see on the screen basically talks about when there's a person by the name of Scott Brinker, and he produced the MarTech Luminoscape. And MarTech Luminoscape is all about mapping all the different tools and technologies that you have at your disposal and what you can learn. So when he did it the first time in 2010, we had about 150 tools. And now, as you fast forward from 2010 to 2025, you have about 15,000 plus. So you can see that the array of tools that you've got at your disposal uh, to make things happen. Right now, if you understand the foundations, you can learn any platform. So it's like, do I need to learn? I hear this word Salesforce, I hear this word Adobe, I hear this HubSpot. There's so many different terms that you hear. So what do you want to learn? So the question is that if you really understand the base foundation, it's like if you know SQL, you should be able to write codes in any language. Or if you know C++, you should be able to code in Java and maybe Python and a few other languages that way. So again, it's like if you understand the foundations, you can learn any platform. And if you understand the capability, you should be able to pick up any platform. So it's really understanding, having ground foundations, and really understanding what the capabilities are. Sometimes people make the mistake of thinking the tool is the strategy. Actually, tool is just the vehicle or just the enabler. Capabilities are really the engine, right? You can learn any of these platforms: Adobe, Salesforce, Braze, Telium, HubSpot, you name them, in weeks. But if you focus on capability, the tools become are a replaceable component rather than a dependency. So you go into an organization today, they've got Salesforce, and then you say, well, I'm actually working only on Salesforce. And they say, no, we actually go to migrate into Adobe. So you got to understand what are the capabilities that we had in Adobe, and what is the lookalike capability that we're going to have in Salesforce, and what's the gap? What are we missing? What's the addition? What's the deletion? That's how you're going to look at it. And the simplest example I can give you is like left hand and right hand drive. So if you are in Australia, we've got right hand drive. You go to America, it's going to be left hand drive. So the difference between left hand drive and right hand drive is not very complicated. Yeah, it does take a bit of while to get across it, but you can learn that. So
Yeah.
I would say it's really understanding the framework. If you have that mindset of understanding that framework, don't focus on the tool. As I said, just focus on the capabilities, focus on the on the fundamentals, and have the mindset as to how I can work across different tools and delivering similar capabilities.
And Satya, when we're talking about the MarTech, how obviously like the I guess marketing is the career of itself, and people obviously study marketing for years and do masters in marketing and things like that to understand the a lot about marketing holistically, and it's not only technical side, but it's could a lot of components can go to the marketing. So would you recommend technical people who moving to martech also get that broader understanding of marketing itself, or it's kind of less about it, it's about how the things connect?
A good one. So let me show you a slide on that and talk you through, and then we'll come back to it. So, the 15,000 tools I talked about, they can be summarized into six buckets. So you can have tools that do advertising and promotion. You've got tools that do content and experience, social and relationship, commerce and sales, data, and then the management. And that's how your reference architecture is designed. Depending on where you are interested, you can actually choose a block and you can specialize in that. But as you can see in the diagram, it's all interconnected. So from a technical person to move into MarTech, you can look at yourself as a T. So you've got some broad skill sets, and then you've got some narrow, specific niche skill sets. So within the six, you can say I've got broad skill sets in four, five, or all the six, and then I've got absolutely deep technical expertise and skill set in one of those elements, and you specialize on that. But the important thing is that you should be able to understand how you connect those different disciplines within each other. So if you're looking at an enterprise architect in MarTech, they basically would design a digital portfolio map. And when they design a digital portfolio map, they look at the reference architecture, and the reference architecture will define, okay, what are the different capabilities that we've got across all the different portfolios and how they interrelate with each other. So if I push a lever, if I remove something or add something, what are the dependencies, what are the upstream impact, and what are the downstream impact? That's the language that you're going to understand. You don't need to know everything, but enough to understand how they actually plumb together.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. And I guess what's the common misconception tech professionals have about MarTech? Do they
Uh,
feel like maybe MarTech is not the technical role?
no, a MarTech, it depends on how you look. So this is a good one. So like MarTech actually has so MarTech has two functions. One is the front end function and one is the back end function. The back end function is all the technical. So that's the plumbing of the data ecosystem, the configuration consolidation of the different techs that you've got. So that's the back end function. The front end function is how then do you use the data and the technology to add customer value. And that is again sometimes a semi technical function, but there's some level of technical capabilities involved. Talking about what are the misconceptions about tech and martech, and that is martech is just not about marketing plus tool, because that's the two word marketing technology. So it's not marketing plus technology. It isn't it. It's actually the intersection of technology, marketing, data, and product converge, right? So that's where it's actually, I would say marketing is the operating system for customer experience and revenue. As I started off, it's the central nervous system, I could say. And it looks at different facets. It looks at data, it looks at decisioning, content, channel orchestration, personalization, experimentation, measurement, right? So it's actually many things together. It's just not marketing and tech, right? The second thing as a misconception is that tools is not equal to capability, which means I talked to you about earlier, right? You got to basically look at the foundation and the capabilities you build in. So let's take a tool. You can have the world's best CDP, right? But it'll not provide you any value because it doesn't really have the right decisioning logic. It doesn't have an operating model. The workflow and governance is not there. The content supply chain is not there. You don't have a measuring framework. You don't have business alignment. You don't have all your different data sources, profile unification and identity management. To do that, you need to have all your data systems together. So just having the tools doesn't really reflect anything.
And
There, this is,
yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
no, maybe just finish your thought before I sort of ask additional
Now,
question. Yeah.
this is the interesting point. So, some people would think that MarTech is easy if you're technical, right? And it's not the case. So, being technical doesn't mean that MarTech becomes easy. Yes, but definitely being technical and technologically astute and having a good technical understanding gives you a head start, because MarTech is not only about technology and tools, it's all about processes as well. So understanding behavioral understanding of the customer, the ability to do commercial storytelling, being able to influence without authority, the change management. So this is actually a business capability that needs to be brought into MarTech, and that's not just a technical hobby. So that's why I see saying a MarTech is not easy if you're technical. It doesn't really work that way. The other thing again compounds that, if I learn the tools, I understand MarTech again, because you can't, the tools are only the you need to understand the capabilities and how the capabilities exist to give you commercial values. That's what you got to understand.
Yeah. So saying that, do you think it's kind of easier for marketing people to move to MarTech rather than technical people to moving to MarTech?
It's a good question. It's a double-edged sword. I haven't like, and I'll describe it this way. I found a lot of marketers, and I call them behavioral marketers because that's what they do in customer journey orchestration, execution, and design. They are very good in designing the customer journey, but when you ask them to design the customer journey, weaving at the intersection of data and tech, they struggle. So there's a gap of marketing people trying to get into technology. The other side, the way is also correct, that there's a gap in technology people understanding the concepts of marketing and how you get there. But you'll have a certain proportion of people who are technologists but have a marketing orientation, or you have people in marketing who are marketers but have the vice versa. So that's the skill set, that's the people that thrive very well. People who are half strategy, half execution, half operation, and they can actually do a good blend. And I guess people that with that BA mindset are best suited to actually transition from a pure technical role to a semi technical role, and then into a marketing, a tech role.
Do you think with the growth of AI now, it's actually will be easier and easier to do that transition sort of from marketing to MarTech rather than from technical field, because AI can sort of, I don't know, help you to automate everything, help you to connect these things. Do you think that's what we will see, or that technical knowledge is still will be
No, no,
like
as
the
I said,
preference?
that technical knowledge at the back end of MarTech is very, very critical. So you can't do MarTech with just marketing knowledge. You need to have that technical knowledge to get into MarTech.
And also, I guess maybe for people to understand a little bit more too, if we talk about like a big organization, you know, whatever the, let's take the maybe one of the organizations you recently worked, how the actually marketing team communicate with MarTech team. So do the are they sort of like a one team, or is it like a separate teams? They have the same goals, the same KPI. So how does it work?
No, this is an interesting question because this is a very big debate. I was in a conference doing a keynote in Melbourne last week, and this was one of the agenda topics. Is that the question is that where does MarTech really sit? Does it sit in the business, or does it sit in technology? And who makes those decisions? Do the people in business make those decisions, or the people that are in technology make those decisions? And it's been a catch 22 in the earlier stages, but now it's converging more into a hybrid model where the business and IT teams together work on the decisions. There was a time where marketing technology used to sit in the CIO and the CTO camp, and they used to decide what marketers needs to have. However, what's happening now is that marketing budget is getting shifted from the CIO to the CTO to the CMO, as a result of which the CMO is in charge of all those martech decisioning. The challenge that they've got is that the CMOs don't really have all the information and the know-how as to how those decisions have to be made, how complex vendor relationships happen, and how to do contract negotiation and multi-year contract negotiation. And are you looking at duplication of tech that you've got? So you might have a product that's actually performing the same function, and all of a sudden you're buying another product performing a similar function. So you've got tech duplication and tech debt. So they are not really the experts in that area. So that's why it's still lingering around, whether it's a tech function or a business function. But gradually and gradually, organizations are coming to a realization it's a hybrid function.
Yeah, yes, yeah, makes sense. I'm just sort of, trying to imagine here's a marketing team coming up with all this like a beautiful customer flow. They want, that sort of sequence, those sort of, I don't know, like nurturing campaign and things like that. And they just dump it to the MarTech to make it happen.
Yeah.
So kind of like, how that would work. So.
Yeah, so as I said, so it's a bit of a shift, right? So
Yeah.
gradually, as we mature more and more, and you'll have technology people gradually working with their marketing counterparts and learning the marketing nuances. And similarly, you'll have marketing people coming into IT and really understanding the ways of
Understanding.
working in the operating model in the IT side.
Yeah, and actually understanding a bit more of the data, as you said as well, to
Correct.
probably make a better decision how you can use that data for all these marketing functions.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Makes sense. Guys, you're really quiet there. There's a few comments, but not many questions. Please make sure to pop some questions in the comments, and on LinkedIn as well. There's a few people still on LinkedIn, so I'm just checking the LinkedIn comments as well. Satya, I guess the one more question is, what sort of, based on everything we chat today, what advice would you give someone who's potentially curious about MarTech, working maybe in a more technical role, maybe software engineer, yeah? Let's go to, software
Yeah.
engineer, curious about MarTech, but they kind of, unsure if they would be like a good fit. They're thinking like, yeah, maybe I should sort of consider that career. How do people decide if it's a good move?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the one thing you're going to look at and ask the real question you're going to ask is that, am I a fit? And the way you're going to answer that question is that, am I willing to think beyond technology and start thinking like a commercial operator? It's like, do I enjoy turning technology into customer value? And if you say, yeah, you've got a bit of nod. Yeah, I think, yeah, that's how you can transition, right? And because it's not about MarTech really rewards people who think commercially, not just technically. So although it can be you have engineering teams and you have engineering teams working in that ecosystem, but it's if you can accelerate your career, if you basically have that commercial thinking, business knowledge in on top of your technical knowledge, right? So what are the things that you should be looking at? And you should be asking yourself, okay, well, can I connect technology to business value? And if I can do that, right, that's a great place to start off with. Do I understand human behaviors? Do I understand the customer lens, customer centricity? And do I enjoy working in cross functional teams? Am I able to translate complexity into clarity? Do I am I able to design system and talk about the design of a system that includes influences customer decisioning? And how do I move between data execution and strategy? So if you have any of that, just from a pure technical thinking of code, the application and the value and the commercial value it generates, you will definitely strive and thrive in a MarTech environment.
Do you feel, Satya, that even if you're not planning to move to MarTech, all the skills you mentioned is actually great skills to any technologist to have, regardless if they, moving to
Oh,
MarTech? Because
absolutely.
the whole, I guess the old technical world is moving towards that, more customer-centric value and understanding customers' behavior. And that's a great skill to have in, I guess, in any role.
Absolutely, because one of the things is Earlier, people in technology used to work in their own pigeonhole and their own silos, right? They never got out of that environment. Now the need is actually to actually work very closely with the business. So you're right. It's not only about anyone who's curious about MarTech and what skills they need, but anyone who's actually curious to work, who's been working predominantly in the technology domain and wants to work in the business domain. Like, you have a good example would be, earlier you used to have enterprise architects, right? And they used to talk about the enterprise architect sitting in the ivory tower, but now you also have business architects. Because what the gap that you find is that enterprise architects are great in creating that portfolio map, the gap analysis in terms of where you are, the target state, and how you're going to get there from people, process, data, and tech, and map all of that. But what are the value streams? How do you actually generate value? What is the business problem that we're looking at solving, and how do we solve that? And what are the capabilities that we need to solve the current problems, and will those capabilities stay relevant to solve the future problems? Those type of conversations that are happening, I guess enterprise architects have not been able to solve, as a result of which now you've got a new dimension of architects coming out, which are business architects. And business architects are people who have a better understanding of the business side rather than the technology side. So, and I used to call it, what's the layering of technology understanding and business understanding, or non-technical understanding between an enterprise architect and a solution architect and a solution designer. So I would say, a solution designer is 75% technical, 25% non-technical. Maybe a solution architect is 50-50, technical and non-technical, whereas an enterprise architect is 75% non-technical and 25% technical, right? And a business architect then basically is 75% understanding of business and 25% understanding of technology.
Yeah. And I think we see it over and over again. Like every time I have a chat on this channel, we come back to those, communication skills, the business acumen, the connecting back to the business value. Those skills, I guess, no matter what tech role you are, you sort of can't avoid it. That's the only way how you gonna grow your career.
Correct.
We have a few questions coming up. I'm not going to try to say your name on the YouTube, but please tell us your name. Satya, do you have any examples of maybe industries that sort of more the MarTech is more popular in?
See, any industry that is customer oriented will have a MarTech function, and it just depends on how mature that industry is. So MarTech function is very much matured in banking and technology, in telcos, for example. Healthcare is really started picking up MarTech. You've got MarTech people in retail. Education has not really picked up MarTech very well, because of other reasons in the past, but now it's actually coming up as well. There's also, as I said, there are about, if you see on the screen, I gave you a 15,000 tool that could be broken down into 6 different pieces. Every organization has a website, right? So MarTech website is a MarTech tool, right? But decisioning and orchestration and execution and CRM system, not many organizations may not have that, but bigger organizations will have that. So it all depends on the what exactly you want to work in and where you want to work in, and every organization will have a component of MarTech.
Yeah, for sure. Just maybe in the small organizations, it will be absorbed by a few people, not as a standalone sort of MarTech function.
Yes.
Yeah. Some kid is asking, for someone with the performance marketing background, transitioning into tech with a data science master degree, what kind of job would be ideal to re-enter the job market?
Well, if you're doing performance marketing, that in itself is a great thing, because that's where you're looking at any marketing that you're doing, especially in a campaign, creative content, what's working and what's not working. So measuring the ROI and the impact of marketing dollar investment is something that you're going to be looking at, and that again comes in more in paid media. It looks into your website, it looks into your social media, creative content, media production. So that's the area that you should be working in. right? But what you've said here is that how do you transition from performance marketing background into tech with a data science master's, right? So when you've done a data science master's, yes, definitely your skills are very valuable to do performance marketing, but your skills are more valuable in terms of doing data analysis, predictive analytics, which is used more in decisioning, orchestration, and execution. So working in the decisioning part of CRMs, that's where your data science skills could be really useful.
Would it have any particular like a job title, or is it hard
Uh,
to say?
it's hard to say these days. Titles come with different names, right? A very generic title comes with is as a product man, is a product owner, right? And you can be a product owner for data, you can be a product owner for a channel, you can be a product owner for a product.
Yeah, yeah. The titles is always a tricky thing, and can mean different things in different organization too.
Correct. Yes.
It's also, I guess, what I guess understanding what problem you can solve for the business. Um, James has another question. Could process managers, technical writers, writing customer-facing documentation, or even procedures for client interaction on the service desk be considered a MarTech function?
Uh, in a way, yes. In a way, no. So let me try to help you explain that. I think you've got that. If you've got that skill set, that's a great skill set, right? What marketing technology or marketing operations currently struggle with is documentation, process mapping, and having documented process and procedure manuals. I worked in an organization where I go in and I ask one question to five people, I get five answers. And one of the reasons for that is that you don't really have the right documentation, the right way to follow the process and procedure manuals to do it, right? So I guess if you're trying to venture into marketing operations, and if you've got that curiosity of a process mindset, documentation, writing those procedures, understanding business requirements, and facilitating conversations between a tech and a non-tech, you would be in demand.
Go. Thank you, guys. So if you have one last question, we probably have time for one more question. But while you're asking this question, I'm gonna do a quick announcement for next week's, and Satya do the exciting part of our live stream. He'll choose the winner of our usual giveaway, and the usual giveaway is a 30 minutes virtual coffee chat with our speaker. So while I'm doing some announcements for next week, Satya, please click through the comments and decide who's the lucky winner of 30 minutes coffee chat with you. And yes, a few announcements, guys. So this week we're doing Tech Walk in Melbourne in Albert Park, 23rd of November on Sunday. So weather should be nice. If you're in Melbourne, I'll be waiting for you at 10 a.m. at Ross Gregory Drive. So please make sure come say hi. It's always great to meet you all in person. And then before Christmas, we actually will have another tech walk in Sydney and another tech walk in Adelaide. So if you in one of those cities, you have a chance to actually catch up in person, which is which is always great. And it's always great to connect people in real life. So really looking forward to meeting you, and hopefully next year we'll open some new locations like Brisbane and Perth. And then in 2 weeks, Wednesday, we're going to talk with Kash, and we're going to talk about, of course, AI and job search. We're going to talk about the specific things that AI can help you. We're not going to talk about, your usual resume and stuff, but more about how like tracking and researching with AI. So make sure to join us on the 3rd of December. And we have one more question. Okay, before you announce the winner, we have one more question from some kid. What skill set is a bare minimum for MarTech Ops? What should I do to be able to land an interview?
Good question, Sankit. I think the bare minimum skills for MarTech Ops is that you should be a great collaborator. Marketing operations is all about connecting the dots between technology, people, process, and data. And your ability to work with various stakeholders at different levels, being able to work with minimum information and ambiguity, would be able to help you secure. If you've got those skill sets, you'll be a great MarTech ops professional.
Yes, the ambiguity coming up a few times. A lot of assumption is marketing. I'm still guessing. I'm always, I don't know. Are you gonna rock up at 5:30 to listen to my live stream, or in summer you're not gonna rock up because it's daylight saving and everyone out? So there's so many assumptions. Or is it the school holidays and that's why no one's here? Or
You got to look at hypothesis, right? And that's what's
yeah.
called hypothesis testing, and that's called testing. Scenario A with scenario B, and why would that work? Does blue color work against pink, right? And you're going to test that, and the way you're going to test that is you're going to have data running experiments, and experiments will define that. But before you define that, you got to have a hypothesis. This is what I believe, and then you got to either prove yourself right or you're going to prove yourself wrong.
Yes, yeah. Or when you don't have enough data, you just can't still prove it. That's what's happening, that you just running YouTube channel and you by yourself and you don't have any MarTech. So you just have to assume. Anyway, guys, so I hope that 5:30 p.m. works for you on Wednesday nights. And Satya, who's the lucky winner of the virtual coffee chat with you?
I think some kid, lucky last. He's asked a great question. What skill sets is a bare minimum for MarTech ops, right? And I thought I've not done full justice of answering that question in a minute. So maybe a virtual coffee with some kid could actually take him through the entire journey of what marketing operations is. What are the different skill sets? What are the different job titles? What's the trajectory and professional career growth in marketing ops? And maybe we can talk about that in a bit more detail.
Perfect. Some kid, make sure you connected with Satya and me on LinkedIn. I'll just keep an eye to make sure that you get your coffee chat sorted. Thank you, Satya, for joining me tonight. It's been great to learn a bit more of the world of MarTech. We didn't talk about MarTech on this channel, so I'm super curious myself, because as a, I guess, because I am doing a little bit marketing, and you have all these ideas and you just wish someone on the back end just put them together. But it's not always, it's not always the case. You're like,
finish it off.
I wish, I wish I just click this button and just connect my live stream to this, and then send the email, and then put the LinkedIn post, and that's all happened just with 2 clicks. That's like a dream.
No. So this is where the future of marketing is. It's going to be analytically informed, data-driven, insights-driven, and technology-enabled, and definitely, AI influenced as well. So there's a lot of technology, there's a lot of data, there's a lot of AI, which means that there's a lot of technology involvement in marketing in the future. So the marketing of the past, which was creative content, media production, branding, still exists, and it has an importance, but now it actually has a data and a technology and an AI, wrapper around it.
Yes, yeah. And soon I'll have an avatar instead of me, doing those interviews. So we'll
Absolutely.
see. We'll see how many years it will take. Thank you again for joining me tonight. Thank you for your time, and thank you, everyone. And I hope I'll see a lot of you this Sunday in Albert Park. Thank you.
Thank you.